Welcome back to that scruffy fella mucking around with the race car in his garage. So, I was going to do some work. Oh, that light was so bright. On that today, the BMW, the 1JZ, with the Link Extreme G4 Plus ECU, and the Wiring Specialties wiring harness, and the Plasma Man intake manifold, and I'll get past the rest is, I don't know. There's some custom stuff happening with the intercooler and some tanks and things that I made up and bits and bobs. It has been sitting and waiting for some time while I'm supposed to be installing an HGT Precision sequential 5-speed gearbox into my Nissan March, and I've kind of taken that little box and then operated in this box that's like way over off screen there somewhere. Distractions. It happens. I mean, it's okay. I don't think the guys are all that stressed about that. I promise you, I'm going to do some more on the BMW today. There you go. I've said it on the video. I really don't want to do an intro again today, so that's going to happen. But before I start on that, I mentioned powder coating. That's really hard to do in the screen and a mirror image. Powder coating the rear subframe here, or painting it, or something like that. So before you do that, you need to make sure it's all ready to go. And it kind of isn't, because there on both sides of this vehicle, on the subframe, because of what's happened, it's, you know, it started as a rear-wheel drive setup and been converted to four-wheel drive. So chops and changes, this is added in later with the engine mounts, right? And it was cut and it was spliced here, and there's another tube put in here, and there's all sorts of things happen. So it ended up that this bar here used to go somewhere else. They were cut, and then they were turned down and joined onto there. And they're attached here, attached there. And we've got our, they're a bit hard to see, rear suspension front pickup, I guess you'd call it, for the lower arm. We've got our attach points on there. They don't really have to be on that bar. Just as easily be on here. It'll be equally as strong, if not stronger. And maybe fold a piece back. Oh, it's really hard to show you. Fold a piece back from this one. Attach it to here. Would be even stiffer than having it attached to here, and an extra fold would stop it. Any of that sort of movement. I doubt that there's any anyway, because that's all direct straight force there like that. So what I'm saying is there's two bars that need to disappear. And this one's kind of in the way for our turbo drain. Kind of makes it awkward because we can't go from here to there with a relatively straight line. We kind of have to 90 and then come around and go down. It looks like it's uphill there, but honestly it's not. It's downhill the whole way. It's just a very, very gradual downhill at that point. This one's a much cleaner shot. We do the same for the other side. So enough babble. What needs to happen is the subframe needs to come out and these need to come off. And I was like, well, this is what I'm thinking, right? I was like, let's get the scales out. We can look up online what this tube weighs per meter, but that's not as much fun as finding a piece of material that's the same length as those two bars and sticking it on the scales. And it's over 1 kg. 1 kg. So that's a couple of bottles of Blue V out of the back of the car. And we're not going to compromise its strength or anything like that. We're actually, like I say, we can make the front pickups for the suspension betterer, more gooderer, and we can make the turbo drain on that side more gooderer, more excellent, much better. We can make it nicer, and it's just win-win. And it's probably going to take me 2 hours. 2 hours, I reckon, something like that. 2 hours is my guess at this point in time. So we'll have it done before lunchtime. And then we can do the BMW after lunch. Good idea? I think it's a good idea. Let's do that. Is that a clock? And that's on the floor. It's a good start. Well, technically it is before lunch. My lunch. It's going to be a late lunch. And I sort of shortcutted what I was going to do a little bit, because it was going to wind up being quite a nuisance trying to get that section there out successfully. It's going to take quite some time. Then just have to reinvent the strength here anyway. So what I've done is effectively cut it off there and put this plate on to transfer any loads from there through to there. And that what's left of that tube, which of course you're going to struggle to bend it over that sort of distance, aren't you, is firmly attached back here. So there's a few other bits and pieces have gone on. Removing old welds, tidying up bits and pieces, filling in the holes for the exhaust mounts and all that sort of carry-ons, all mostly sorted out. Looking at this unit, I've decided powder coating might not be the one for it, because it's probably a bit far gone as far as it's been chopped and changed and altered and fiddled with, and it's probably better to leave it as is, more or less. Put some paint on it or whatever, and then I'll look into doing that aluminium one that I want to do at some point in time. It might not be at this stage, it might be after we've got it going and we've tested it and all that sort of carry on. There's probably some geometry changes that need to go on really, but I haven't looked into that too much to see where we're at. Well, plans change. Best of intentions to get on with that. Our brake pads have turned up for the patrol. These are Mintex 11, I can't remember if it's 55 or 66, the better ones. Hang on. Quick trick to the whiteboard to see what I had written down, 1166. So these are the pads to have, apparently, to get them to pass the LVVTA brake check. So customers popping around with this patrol very shortly. We'll get those fitted for him, run through the bedding in procedures and see how he goes. Then we'll see what time of the day it is and whether we can get anything done on that or not. There's a couple of things, so we've got like 40 minutes before he turns up, so there's a couple of things I can crack on with here. One is sorting out that turbo pipe that we can, the drain pipe that we can now change. So I'll quickly bang this back in the car and we'll sort out that pipe. Shock, horror. It's moved! Oh my gosh! I'm going to do some actual work. Well, I have already done some actual work. More actual work. It hasn't all been about this thing the entire last month, but mostly. So anyway, we were at the point where under this cover here, where all your nice fresh air for the people inside there comes from, is a bung for a O2 sensor. That is no good there because it crashes into that cover. Now, a rough person would potentially consider drilling a hole in that cover and maybe make some sort of a cover for the O2 sensor or something, or even just leave it like that. Some people. I'm going to drill a new hole about where the end of my finger is there, and we're going to put our O2 sensor there. And I'm going to read the destruction manual, and I'm going to make sure that it complies with the angle that it's supposed to be on. You're not supposed to have them straight up and down. The March is probably the incorrect angle. I think I explained why where they are on that. But with this, we're basically going to lie it over as much as practical so that we don't have it too close to our cam shaft covers, rocker covers, engine covers, whatever people want to call them. And then we're going to look at the insulation that we're going to need on the underside of here, the thermal insulation stuff. I've got a couple of options there, 2 or 3 options. So we'll have to protect that. It's not screwed up at the moment. It doesn't normally sit hard against the wastegate there, but we're going to have to protect that fibre reinforced plastic from the wastegate, or it will turn into a bonfire the first time we have some fun with it. Then it won't be fun anymore. So to do this properly, I'm going to have to pull the wrap off. I'm actually going to have to take the downpipe out of the car. To do that, it needs to be in the air. Ideally, it would be on the hoist, but it's actually quite difficult to move this thing around at the moment. So axle stands and jacks it is. Yep, that's a nylock nut on a V-band for an exhaust system. That's pretty clever. What happens when the nylon melts? Okay, it's 5 o'clock now, going inside. Now, I said I was going to do some work on this. We are. So I've done the unthinkable, and I've actually rung the customer and asked what he would prefer. Given him a couple of options. One is we have, of course there's a downpipe that's here normally, but we have the O2 sensor. I can put things like that on here because look, all this paint's all chipped and everything anyway, so I've just talked to him about that. We can do something with that too, probably. Does he want O2 sensor under this cover, but out to this side, so it's easy to get to, easy maintenance, nice and simple, but you will still be able to see it underneath that cover? Or would he prefer over the other side, behind the wastegate that sits here, so it's more stealthy and less clutter in the engine bay, tidier, nicer looking, but a little bit harder to change it if he wants to change it later on. And we've both decided we're going to go for the prettier option. So that's cool. I'm going to do that now. I've marked it with the old Vivid. Let's go in there. So I'm going to drill a hole with the bung there. Ta-da! It's going to live there now. Always run taps through those, after you weld those bungs in. If you don't, you're just gambling. 9 times, well, I don't know. 9 times out of 10 might be a bit pessimistic, but the threads will pick up on your O2 sensor and you'll have a really bad day. See, I can't physically turn that with my bare hand. I bet I can't do this one-handed with the camera. Nah, see? Oh, yeah, we might be able to do that. To make it all good, use cutting compound or grease, or that works. Bit of CRC all over everything, make a big mess. It's quite tight, I bet if you'd run that through there before we welded it, it would have been beautiful. I'm going to put the camera down and do this, and then we're going to pop this back in the car. We're going to put the sensor in, make sure it fits. Beautiful. Wouldn't even know it was there, would you? Unless you go looking for it. Tucked away in there. That's good. Don't worry about that touching on there. Everything's loose, just sitting. I had a good thought. We can take that bung off there and put the link supplied lower profile, nicer looking bung in there. As you can see that, I will leave that there. I think the old one, I think that's a good game plan. So like I say, come tuning time, put this off, out of the way, put your sensor in the top, good to go. Cool. All right, not a lot of progress, but progress. We did something. Yay. Okay, cheers for watching. Time to go inside. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all that sort of stuff. Cheers, bye.